The commission meets for the first time in a year and doesn't make a lot of progress. Plus, a manhunt for an escaped killer comes to an end. And in sports, Ohio football sets up to play Iowa State. Newswatch starts right now.
Good evening and welcome to Newswatch. I'm Haley Hollinger. The Ohio Redistricting Commission's first meeting in more than a year didn't make much progress today. The commission started late and then recessed until Friday after it couldn't pick co-chairs. The commission needs to come up with new Ohio House and Senate district maps by the 22nd, so they'll be ready for the March primary. 5 previous maps drawn up by Republicans on the commission were ruled unconstitutional by the state Supreme Court. The commission is set to meet again Friday morning, but that's only if co-chairs can be picked by Thursday. Over 24 lawmakers at the Ohio State House have signed onto a bipartisan designed to provide property tax relief for senior citizens. The 70 over 70 bill would give Ohioans 70 and older who earn no more than $70,000 a year a break on their property taxes. Thomas Hall, Republican representative, states that this is needed because rising valuations have been making it difficult for seniors to stay in their homes. Democratic Representative Danny Isaacson says the break would be absorbed by the state, not the local schools or governments. No details are out yet on what the bill might cost for the state. The Ohio Attorney General's office is investigating how dozens of names appeared on letters generated by a group advocating for drilling oil and gas in state parks without their knowledge. Attorney General Dave Yost states his concerns on the letters that are including names of people who did not authorize it or those who are against drilling and fracking in state parks. He is not sure if illegal activity took place, but that the government needs to trust public input actually comes from the public. The Consumer Energy Alliance stated that it appreciates the review and will work with AG because the allegations are previously not true. The Lawrence County Land Bank is demolishing abandoned properties off Township Road 287. 19 buildings are being demolished near the Chesapeake Flea Market. WSAZ reports Deanne Holliday, Lawrence County Chair and Commissioner of the Land Bank, stating a lot of drug activity and crime were occurring in this area. The health department has worked with the land bank to clean up the area. Trash, dead animals, needles, and raw sewage have been found in these houses. October 6th to the 15th is the expected time of completion for this demolition.
And for weather, I'm Isabel Isco. You could see that today we've been on the cooler side than we've been these last few days. You could kind of see that cold front come in and give us some cooler air to our Wednesday. Looking at the temperatures today, you can see that temperature high about 74, that temperature low about 49. We'll be hitting those cooler temperatures later on in the day. Those mostly sunny skies have been popping up throughout the day. You can kind of just see how the cooler side, it's kind of in the 60s this morning, and once that sun came up, we didn't get too much warmer. We did beat that temperature high that we were expecting, but it did stay in those mid to high 70s for the day. Stayed pretty nice. Right now we're looking at about 75. Those partly cloudy skies are keeping us pretty central, kind of in a good mood for our Wednesday. You could see that tonight, that's whenever those overnight lows are going to be hitting that low 49, mostly clear skies. So if you're heading out there, you will need that light jacket, might even a heavier one, but just to keep it, because it is going to be on that colder side. You could see that today we did have those little pop-up showers, not too much. Let's zoom in on there. A little bit on the northern side or southerly, but here in Athens, not too much. We'll definitely be getting into that possibility for rain later in the weekend whenever I come up for that full weather later on. Now back to Haley.
Thanks, Isabel. With fall temperatures across the region, many are wondering when the leaves are going to start changing colors. For folks in the northern part of Ohio, the fall foliage is expected to take hold at the end of this month. But for many here in southeast Ohio, the leaves won't change color until October. This year's colors are expected to be more vibrant than last year's. According to the Ohio Department of Natural Resources, adequate summer rainfall and lower than normal temperatures should favor some brilliant fall colors around the region next month. And when you're ready to get those beautiful leaves out of your yard, the City of Athens has its loose leaf pickup schedule. Area number 1 includes the north side, near east side, and far east side. The pickup for those leaves will be October 16th to the 20th, November 13th through the 17th, and December 4th through the 8th. Area number 2 includes the West Side, Highland Congress area, University Estates, and Uptown neighborhoods. Pickup in these neighborhoods will be from October 23rd to the 27th, November 13th to the 17th, and December 4th to the 8th. With NFL season kicking off, some experts are worried about a potential rise of gambling in Ohio. With sports betting becoming legal in Ohio last January, calls to the state's problem helpline are up 150% compared to last year. Derek Longmire, executive director of the Problem Gambling Network of Ohio, shares with the Ohio Newsroom that sports betting advertisements are required to list the number for the Problem Gambling hotline. With the NFL season kicking off, more people are expected to call the hotline. Longmire states the biggest surge after legalization in other states have taken place 2 years later. His network is now preparing resources for that predicted uptick. Camping on public property could be banned in Parkersburg City. The ordinance to make the ban a reality was recently passed by City Council. Anyone in violation of the ordinance would have to pay between $100 and $500. The ordinance would act as a preventative measure against public encampments, something the city does not currently have. During a public forum, a resident suggested the city create a designated area for encampments instead of spending tax dollars to clean them up. The only council member to vote against the ordinance was Wendy Tuck. The American Veterans Traveling Vietnam Memorial Wall is set to arrive at City Park in Parkersburg. The exhibit is a 360-foot-long replica of the Vietnam War Memorial in Washington, D.C., making it only 80% the size of the wall in Washington. It will open at noon on Thursday and remain open at all hours until noon on Sunday. And when we come back, a manhunt in Pennsylvania comes to an end. Plus, new data shows inflation is not slowing down, what that could mean for the economy.
And for weather, you could kind of see that Hurricane Lee is brewing. What will that give us in Athens and for the rest of Ohio? Back when Newswatch returns.
A race
The loss is catastrophic for us.
to restore a medieval masterpiece.
The level of determination and the feat of engineering, just extraordinary.
Secrets
It is a very unique opportunity,
hidden beneath the ashes.
kind of walking backwards in time.
Inside the incredible effort.
This is a revolution in Gothic architecture.
Rebuilding Notre Dame on Nova.
Wednesday at 9 on WOUB.
Week 5 is upon us, and it marks the halfway point of the regular season. Conference schedules are in full swing, and Gridiron Glory has you covered. The TSL has just its second ever game as Warren travels to Beverly to face off with Fort Fry. Waverly picked up their first SOC win in Week 4, and they'll host Portsmouth West, looking to stay unbeaten in conference. And in our game of the week, Waterford travels to Eastern to see who takes early control of the TVC Hawking. Catch it all Friday night at 11:30, because remember, there's nothing better than Friday nights and Gridiron Glory.
Get out!
On Finding Your Roots, Cyndi Lauper discovers a rebel.
I know I'm always fighting the man. Now I know where it comes from.
Jamie Chung's ancestor is honored.
No way. That's my cousin.
Yeah.
And Danny Trejo's relatives journey to America.
I've got history.
And Danny, they were on foot, man.
That's heavy.
Finding Your Roots.
Tuesday at 8 on WOUB.
After 20 years of living in the U.S., an undocumented family decides to return home. Between the rodeo arenas of North Carolina and their beloved Charan, Mexico, a story about reverse migration and redemption. Bulls and Saints. on POV.
Monday at 10 on WOUB.
After 14 days, the manhunt for an escaped killer is over. 34-year-old Danilo Cavalcante was found early this morning in South Coventry Township, Pennsylvania. CBS News Philadelphia captured the minutes just after Danilo was taken into custody. Laura Aguirre has more from state police on how this high-profile manhunt came to an end.
Our suspect was captured.
Pennsylvania's governor giving the news so many were anxiously awaiting.
There were no injuries to law enforcement or to the public. He was apprehended this morning with no shots fired.
Police say they started to close the net overnight after a residential burglar alarm drew more officers into an area in northern Chester County. An air search unit picked up a heat signal, but stormy weather and lightning forced units on the ground to hunker down and wait to move in.
Tactical teams converged on the area where the heat source was. They were able to move in very quietly. They had the element of surprise. Cavalcante did not realize he was surrounded until that had occurred.
Danilo Cavalcante did not initially give up peacefully.
He began to crawl through thick underbrush, taking his rifle with him as he went.
Police say they released a canine to stop Cavalcante's escape.
The dog subdued him, and team members from both of those teams immediately moved in. He continued to resist, but was forcibly taken into custody.
State police say Cavalcante did suffer a minor bite wound and was seen by medical experts at the scene.
He was transported to our Avondale station for further processing and interview, and he will ultimately be transferred to a state correctional institute where he will be housed and begin to serve his life sentence.
I'm Laura Aguirre reporting.
The Federal Reserve could raise interest rates again after a new report shows inflation is not slowing down. The Consumer Price Index rose 3.7% in August compared to last year. That's also up from July's 3.2% increase. The U.S. economy is facing a couple major hurdles, including a possible government shutdown next month, a strike by the two United Auto Workers Union, and high gas prices. Ivan Rodriguez breaks down the numbers and what it could mean for the economy's future.
U.S. inflation accelerated in August for the second straight month. The main culprit, rising gas prices, which could mean problems going forward.
If high oil and gasoline prices are sustained, that's something that could spill over into prices for other goods and services.
Greg McBride, chief financial analyst with Bankrate, says while increases in some key areas are slowing down, we are not out of the woods.
Shelter costs are still increasing, but at a slower pace than what we had seen. And food prices have certainly moderated from the outsized pace of the past couple of years. So some signs of progress, but still some trouble spots we have to keep an eye on.
The rise in inflation is roughly in line with economists' expectations. On a month-to-month basis, prices rose 0.6% in August compared with the 0.2% gain in July. However, core inflation, which strips away food and energy prices, slowed to 4.3% from 4.7% on an annual basis, an indication the Federal Reserve's rate hikes are working to cool the economy. McBride says these numbers will likely keep the Fed on track for a pause in rate hikes.
But I also expect they're going to maintain this stance of, well, hey, we may have to raise interest rates again if need be.
I'm Ivan Rodriguez reporting.
The Federal Reserve will announce whether or not another interest rate hike is on the way during their meeting next week.
And for weather here in Athens, currently we're about 75 degrees, partly cloudy out there. You'll see how those clouds are going to kind of subside throughout the night. We're going to get mostly clear going into tonight. Going to need that jacket if you're heading outside. We're going to be about 49. It's going to be a little bit on the chillier side than we're used to these last few weeks. You could see that for Athens and Ohio especially, not really any kind of storms going on, just kind of some pop-up showers here and there. If we zoom in, you can see Athens not really hit, but the more north that you go, there were some more pop-ups, and kind of on the West Virginia border, there were some pop-ups there. But here in Athens, we've been generally clear. Going into tomorrow, you could see that temperatures and kind of the average is going to be staying at about the same spot for these next few days. That temperature high is about 74. The temperature low about 47, so a little bit on the cooler side than today, but we are going to have those mostly sunny skies, so it's going to be pretty nice out there. Going to be a nice cool off than those 80s and 90s like we were expecting last week. Seeing the last 24 hours, I really want to focus in on Hurricane Lee and how this kind of low pressure is pushing it, and it's going to be pushing it into the New England area. We could see that off the coast of Florida, it's not really going to be hitting Florida, which is pretty nice than for their hurricanes that they've been expecting earlier. And we in Athens won't be affected as much. You could see that it's kind of, this high pressure is going to be in Athens and on Ohio and keeping us generally clear, but this kind of path of storms is going to be trailing up, and we might get affected by this even later into the week, but very, very lightly, more on Sunday than anything. We're going to be staying generally clear with this high pressure kind of staying on us. You could see any kind of rain is kind of on the trail end of us. It's not going to be affecting Athens or any part of Ohio anytime soon, going into even Friday. The only part that we're kind of expecting anything from is this kind of low front kind of coming in, and maybe on Sunday we might get that occasional pop-up shower, but that's for later, for us later to discover. Going into the New England area, that's whenever they're going to be getting hit, is Friday, Saturday. Going into these next 3 days, you can see that we're not really going to be affected by any of that rain. We're going to be staying in those sunny skies. We're going to have that general 70s, those general lows in those 40s, looking at low 50s for Saturday. Looking at that 7-day outlook, we're staying on the 70 side. Sunday, that's 20% chance of showers that we're going to be popping in and looking if that's going to be hitting us or not. But for those next few days, we're going to be feeling pretty good here in Athens. The only chance that we're seeing of any kind of high temperatures is next Wednesday. So definitely enjoy these nice few days coming up. Now back to Haley.
Thanks, Isabel. Hurricane season is in full swing, and Hurricane Lee is continuing to push closer to the New England and parts of Canada. Current projections have the powerful Category 2 hurricane possibly reaching New England on Saturday, with the exact timing and extent of Lee's winds and rainfall if the storm hits the U.S. is still uncertain. In Connecticut, communities are preparing for Lee's potential impact. Sailor Howard Gray Park IV says he's not too worried.
The only way to be prepared is just kind of get out on your own boat, you know, take the sails off it, and that's kind of what we do right now.
Hurricane Lee has also prompted a tropical storm warning over Bermuda. Heavy rainfall and high surf are expected to sweep across the island tonight. Cancer experts are demanding action to end an ongoing drug shortage. They're calling for lawmakers to fix the cancer drug shortage and increase funding for cancer research. This comes as the American Association for Cancer Research released its annual cancer progress report. It highlights the recent improvements that the U.S. has made in reducing cancer deaths and advancing treatment, but underscores the challenges of an ongoing shortage of chemotherapy medications and growing concerns about future funding for cancer research. Experts plan to meet with lawmakers in Washington this week to discuss the report's findings. Before the experts head to Washington, President Joe Biden billions of dollars in new funding to help cancer research. Biden met with his cabinet earlier this morning to give an update on new steps to end cancer. The president announced $9.8 billion in new funding going toward cancer research. The funds are coming from Congress and the National Institute of Cancer. The White House says the president is part of his unity agenda.
All right, and coming up in sports, Alexander defeats Athens in a 5-set thriller. That story is still ahead. And for the latest from Newswatch, check us out on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube.
Week 5 is upon us, and it marks the halfway point of the regular season. Conference schedules are in full swing, and Gridiron Glory has you covered. The TSL has just its second ever game as Warren travels to Beverly to face off with Fort Fry. Waverly picked up their first SOC win in Week 4, and they'll host Portsmouth West, looking to stay unbeaten in conference. And in our game of the week, Waterford travels to Eastern to see who takes early control of the TVC Hawking. Catch it all Friday night at 11:30, because remember, there's nothing better than Friday nights and Gridiron Glory.
Querido Sansón, me pregunto si quieres embarcarte en una aventura conmigo y que intentemos hacer una película sobre tu vida.
Si usted cree que mi vida es interesante, ¿por qué no se da una vuelta por mis tierras?
¿Tu familia? Ellos serían los actores en tu historia.
O sea, porque todo eso que pasó él, yo no lo supe hasta que...
Vida sin salida a los 19 años.
Sansón and Me, September 19th on PBS and the PBS app.
At 36 and again at 72, Jerry Brown became a two-term California governor. In between, he was a mayor, an attorney general, and
a candidate for the presidency.
A three-time nominee for the presidency, ahead of his time on climate change and inequality.
We needed a new spirit, and Jerry was it.
I'm representing a new generation of leadership for this country.
Join Jerry Brown, the disruptor.
They didn't call me Governor Boombeam for nothing.
On American Masters.
Friday at 9 on WOUB.
After 20 years of living in the U.S., an undocumented family decides to return home. Between the rodeo arenas of North Carolina and their beloved Churan, Mexico, a story about reverse migration and redemption. Bulls and Saints on POV.
Monday at 10 on WOUB.
Alexander took down Athens in the crosstown rivalry matchup last night. The Spartans and the Bulldogs battled for power in close rallies. They traded sets going into the fifth, 2 sets apiece. In the fifth, the teams alternated points until the Spartans finally took control late in the set. Alexander came out victorious over Athens, taking the set 17-15 in extra points. Alexander head coach Jamie Lotz talks about the competitiveness of this rivalry.
It's like that when we go to Athens. It's like that when we come here. It's just, and it's fun. Fifth set, I was, to 15. We've been there once before with Vinton County and didn't come on top, so it was a nice, humble win to get out with a win.
And sticking to the court, Nelsonville, York, and River Valley were also in action last night. The Buckeyes started off a little bit slow, but started to come alive halfway through the first set. Nelsonville, York would go on a 16-point run against the Raiders, which led them to take their first set 25-8. The Buckeyes' confidence from the first set carried on through the rest of the game, where they would come out on top with a 3-set sweep over the Raiders. And Ohio Field Hockey senior goalkeeper Macy Lotz was named Mid-American Conference Defensive Player of the Week, following her performance against Indiana on Sunday. Lotz had 14 saves and was a dominant force in front of the net for the Bobcats. One of those saves comes in overtime, where Ohio was able to take advantage and score on the other end, earning a 3-2 victory. And Ohio football continues preparations to host a Big 12 opponent, Iowa State. The Bobcats are coming off of a 17-10 win over Florida Atlantic and are looking for their third straight win this Saturday. And with the home crowd this weekend, Ohio is for sure going to bring the energy against the Cyclones. And looking back to Ohio's loss against San Diego State last week in Week 0, head coach Tim Albin talks about key disparities in the play style of these two opponents.
The difference between the two is the amount of pressure, probably. Just looking, if you just break it down and look at the data, there's more pressures from San Diego State. Iowa State doesn't, they're just so good, they don't need to do a lot of pressuring.
Thanks, Sally. Unfortunately, some sad news from the basketball world. Former NBA player and OU basketball alum Brandon Hunter has died at the age of 42. According to his family, Hunter collapsed while doing hot yoga in Orlando yesterday. Before playing for the Boston Celtics and Orlando Magic, Hunter played for the Ohio University men's basketball team. The team says on Twitter they are saddened to hear about the loss of Ohio basketball. Hunter was inducted into the OU Athletics Hall of Fame last year. Coming up on Newswatch, a little girl makes a special donation on her birthday. But first, here's a look at what's coming up tonight on your public television station.
Week 5 is upon us, and it marks the halfway point of the regular season. Conference schedules are in full swing, and Gridiron Glory has you covered. The TSL has just its second ever game as Warren travels to Beverly to face off with Fort Fry. Waverly picked up their first SOC win in Week 4, and they'll host Portsmouth West, looking to stay unbeaten in conference. And in our game of the week, Waterford travels to Eastern to see who takes early control of the TVC Hawking. Catch it all Friday night at 11:30, because remember, there's nothing better than Friday nights and Gridiron Glory.
Querido Sansón, me pregunto si quieres embarcarte en una aventura conmigo y que intentemos hacer una película sobre tu vida.
Si usted cree que mi vida es interesante, ¿por qué no se da una vuelta por mis tierras?
¿Tu familia? Ellos serían los actores en tu historia.
O sea, porque todo eso que pasó él, yo no lo supe hasta que...
Vida sin salida a los 19 años.
Sansón and Me, September 19th on PBS and the PBS app.
You need to face your fears.
Who displays the personality type to kill with calculation?
Anything you'd like to share, Professor?
If there's an exit wound, there's going to be a bullet. I'd say it's game.
Game on indeed. We could get into very deep water on this.
If you need us, we're not going anywhere.
Evolution Earth, Islands. At the front line of change, where life is evolving at super speeds. Out there, things aren't what you expect. You'll see.
Wednesday at 10 on WOUB.
A little girl says a donation made her birthday extra happy. It's not something she received, but rather something she gave. Third grader Libby Barrett from Montgomery, Alabama, says she used her birthday money to buy supplies for her school's special education program. This 8-year-old was given $550 for her birthday, and she gave it all away. She bought new toys, bean bags, cleaning supplies, and a brand new ABC rug. Libby shared the happiness with her class too, as both classes played together. Her parents are blown away with their daughter's decision, and even they learned a valuable lesson.
And for Athens tonight, again, that overnight low is about 49. So if you're heading out there, don't forget that jacket. It's going to be on that chillier side. It's going to be mostly clear out there, so you are going to be able to see that nice moon, some stargazing for your night. Those mostly sunny skies are going to be a trend for these next couple of days. That temperature high tomorrow, about 74. That low, about 47. Going to be generally in those clear skies are going to be sticking around looking into this 3-day outlook. Those on Friday, those sunny skies, about 75, and that low about 46. Looking into the rest of the week, you're going to be seeing those pretty mid to high 70s, and we're not going to be breaking those until about Wednesday. That's it for my final weather.
And that does it for our broadcast this evening. Thanks so much for watching. For Sully Beach and Isabella Isco, I'm Haley Hollinger. Stay tuned for the PBS NewsHour coming up next. And remember, you can find the latest news anytime at WOUB.org or follow us on social media. Have a great night.